1, recording has started, and I'm removing the waiting room now. We have 5 people in there. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, Richard. Good to see you. Who else do we have here? Let me scroll down. Hi, Amy. Hi, Dwayne. Got a good group of people here. Beth Ann, Valerie, thanks everyone for joining. We're going to give it about 30 more seconds and then we'll get started. Hope everyone was able to stay inside for this wonderful code red air quality day. We'll get started here in just a couple seconds. Go ahead, Poppy, and let's advance to the next slide. So let me give you a little overview. We've all done this a few times now, a few years together now. We do have some new faces and you'll get to meet them throughout tonight's presentation. So of course, I'm Michael Aiken. I'm president of Link Strategic Partners. We're the community engagement partner to make sure that community and stakeholders remain centered in this whole process and that all of your input is used throughout the process. We have Dr. Brad Stewart, who's going to give us some welcoming remarks and updates in just a bit here. And then Dave and Paul, who you've met before from Barton Mallow. We got a newish face with Gilbane today with Joe, and Matt will be with us again. And then Mike, who's been leading a lot of the MFP work with Canon Designs. We got a strong bench of people that you're going to be hearing from today. And we'll be rolling through it in some efficiency. But as always, the chat is fully open throughout, and we'll try and do questions in real time. And we'll also leave some time for any questions that you have after each section. Does that work for everybody? Okay, Dr. Stewart, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us a welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see a bunch of familiar faces. This is another one in a series of construction forums so that we can keep you up to date. Just a couple of notes about what's going on campus in the next couple of weeks. First of all, we're finishing up summer session number 1 next week. And then on the week of July 9th, we're bringing in about 40 or 50 young people from MCPS, middle school aged students for a summer camp called Montgomery Can Code. It's a computer coding camp sponsored by some help from Apple Computer and Amazon. So if you see a bunch of teenage kids running around, please direct them back to us if they look like they've gotten lost, and we'll be sure to take care of them. So we're looking forward to having them on the campus. Dave, I think it's probably your turn now, right?
Sure thing. Thank you, Dr. Stewart. So we'll talk about the Catherine Isaiah Math and Science Building Project. As usual, we'll go through kind of our typical agenda, talk about current construction project status, talk about updates, and where we're headed, and then just kind of touch on logistics again. So where are we today? The building looks a little different than the last meeting. You can see the masonry that's up behind the greenhouse. And by the way, the greenhouse is up there in the foreground also. A lot of that brick behind it with the glass that's going in, and then you can see the scaffold kind of in the foreground there of all of the work that's going on. If we move on to the next picture or the next slide, you can see a little aerial view of the same type thing with the greenhouse. Looks really, really fantastic. And again, that brick and the glazing that Paul's going to talk about in a few minutes on that facade. And then as you look along Fenton Street, you can see, it's a little tough to see there, but an aerial photo there that shows the scaffold with the masonry going in. It's a lot farther along than that today than it was in that picture. So we're making a lot of progress on the side of the building facing Science North. Paul talked about a little bit that masonry or brick is also going in. The electric service that we talked about last time has been brought in and complete, as well as the gas service. And then the masonry on the facade facing Tacoma is also really completed up today. They may have some wash down to do with that masonry, but a lot of exterior progress and interior progress. So Paul's going to kind of lead us through, kind of the ongoing work stuff.
All right, thanks, Dave. So as David mentioned, the masonry has been progressing at a really good clip or a pace. So right now, the bulk of our forces are working on the Fenton Street side of the job, the west side, as well as the north side, nearest Science North. So the masonry is really going, and as David mentioned, on the south side, facing kind of the neighborhood, we're doing some wash down. So it's a green product that essentially cleans the brick and the mortar following the install. The next slide, we can take a look at, some of the tools and equipment that's needed for the mason. You guys are probably probably familiar with this slide. We've had it in the last couple updates, but the mortar storage silo, that's a tool that's used rather than cutting up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bags and having to load them and move them around. They get thrown into that mortar storage silo. One of the big things that the silo does is it really knocks down a lot of dust that's associated. So again, we're already facing poor air quality out on a normal day. Now we're trying not to make it any worse. And then as far as any kind of tools or equipment that's going to be noisy, the photo on the bottom is a mortar mixer. So again, that mortar gets thrown into the mixer, mixed with water, and that's the binding agent that holds the brick together. Other than that, it's really a manual labor kind of process with the masonry. And other than that, the big tools that they use, they'll have pans to mix their mortar in, as well as trowels to install the mortar. The next slide. So again, these are just a couple, kind of further in-depth photos, but as you can see again in the photo on the left, we have glass going in. So you can see kind of on the bottom two levels, you can see the darker glass going in, and the top level still have the temporary plastic. The noise that's produced with the installation of the glazing is really, really minimal. The probably noisiest thing that you'll hear is the backup alarm when they're having to reposition their aerial lifts. But other than that, it's a very quiet operation. And then the photo on the right, you can see that on the top roof or the upper level, the highest roof, you can see the white roofing material down. Again, but you can see the darker metal panel wall that's kind of hiding the mechanical equipment up on the roof. And we're now dropping back down and finalizing the lower roof you can see on the right side and kind of the darker black. The next slide. This is hopping into the building now. So one of the really impressive portions of this job is going to be the planetarium. So the photo on the left, you can kind of see it's dark, and that's intentionally dark. You want to try to black that area out as much possible to allow the visuals, precedence in the planetarium, obviously. So right there, we have our two-story planetarium room. The planetarium folks actually just mobilized, and we're hoping to get them in and out in about 4 weeks. But I know there's a lot of folks that are very excited to see that work starting. On the right, you can see some of the more typical lab spaces. You can see, not only is drywall up, but drywall has either got primer or paint on it. You can also see the floors. The floors are being prepped, and we have flooring installation starting on the uppermost floors, dropping down to the ground floor. Another thing, it's kind of difficult to see, but we have ceiling grid in. So that's another exciting thing. Once we get our final inspections over the next month and a half, we can start installing ceiling tile. So pretty cool seeing what's going on the inside. Next slide. Again, this is just a couple photos of the atrium ceiling framing. So again, you can see that we're getting ready to start installing sheetrock on the ceilings, as well as in the photo on the right, you can see, the ductwork that's installed and insulated. You can see piping systems, sprinkler lines, and electrical conduit. So again, going hot and heavy on the interior for the time being. So very exciting.
So thanks, Paul. As a lot of work complete, a lot of work ongoing, and unfortunately, a lot of work to go, but we're right on schedule from what we had talked about previously. So the checkbox items are the completed items. And then we're on that, the one with the circle, the green circle with the building interior and final site work kind of in the progression. Our work with Barton Mallow should be complete as we talked about last time in December of this year. And when we're done, that allows the college to come in and do their IT, their computer systems and the cabling that they're going to do, as well as put in the furniture. So while they're doing that, you know, in December, they're targeting an opening of March 24 for the building. So, you know, what's coming up next? What are those things? We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the parking lot, Tacoma Road entrance, in a little more detail in a couple slides. And we talk about deliveries all the time, our lab casework that goes in those areas that Paul had described earlier. It's a lot of casework. It's a middle of July delivery. It could be as early as 7/10. It could be the week of 7/17. But those will come in on some fairly large trucks. Again, things that have navigated the site already, but just want to let everybody know. And as we do the updates, we'll provide, you know, further information. Our mechanical units, you know, trying to get those started up inside the building. Our elevator installation is progressing. We have the kind of the bottom of the elevator in. We don't have any cabs yet, but we're progressing that way. And then installation is again proceeding per our schedule. And Paul mentioned the planetarium. We were, you know, targeting a early July mobilization. They actually got there a few days early. And, you know, that dome setup, that preliminary setup for them on this mobilization could take anywhere, like Paul said, 4 to 6 weeks. The good news is they're there setting up all the preliminary stuff they need. So that'll be just a fantastic space and exciting to see that go in. And, you know, kind of we talk about the parking lot and the entrance onto Tacoma Avenue. This was the slide we had in the last presentation. That's the general area and the grayed out area. I wanted to emphasize a little bit on this time, you know, the work that we have to do on the sidewalk along Tacoma. You know, the entrance was always grayed out, and we touched on that sidewalk last time, but there's a fair amount of sidewalk whenever there's, you know, an approach done that the jurisdictions want to make sure the sidewalks are, you know, shiny and new for everybody to use. So that's to the depth that we'll be going on the sidewalk to replace. So that work, you know, any demolition or really noisy work that's that close to the street, we won't start till after 8 o'clock in the morning, just so everybody's aware. We plan on only minimal traffic on Tacoma. When we do that entrance with the curbing, there's a few pieces of equipment. It could be concrete and the paving machines that we just can't take back through the site the way we're going to bring them in initially. And I'll show you why in a second. If you move on to the next slide. So if you remember this slide from last time, those blue arrows, that's where we're going to bring in as much of the equipment that we can and materials as early as we can. That area is where our current trailer is located also. So, you know, we're currently, as the mason moves out, we're going to demobilize and take our trailers off site to allow that space to be open for all that material and equipment to come through there. We're meeting with the trailer people again, just to make sure everything can go out on those trailers through Fenton. If there is a problem with that, then of course we'll update any notices, but our intent is to take everything out through Fenton. And if you look through there, you can see we bring all those materials in, but at the entrance itself, when we get to that point, that's where we have to have a little bit of materials coming out and going onto Tacoma. The overall duration for this work is probably around 90 days. Again, it's weather dependent. The work that is adjacent to Tacoma, the entrance and that sidewalk that we talked about, is really only 2 to 3 weeks worth of work. Again, still weather dependent. But that'll be towards the tail end of that work, and through the weekly updates, we'll make sure everybody is kept updated so there are no surprises, and we coordinate with everybody to get that work done as quickly as possible. Here's an updated aerial of the building showing the traffic patterns and logistics that we've used. So our entrances haven't changed. We still have the flow around the building. You can see where it's tight on the upper side along Fenton, kind of where our trailers are. So we need to open that up to allow that work to start on that parking lot there. And, you know, but so far everything has worked pretty well on site. If we look at the actual deliveries, again, a slide that if you've been to any of the forums before, you should be familiar with. We have pickup trucks, flatbed trucks, concrete trucks, box trucks. Those will continue, and I mentioned earlier about the lab casework that'll use the trucks on the next slide. Excuse me. The flatbed trucks with larger equipment. We've had all of the masonry delivered on those large trucks already, so they can traverse the site and get around pretty easily. As Paul showed those pictures of the interior, so we've had new trade partners on site. So we continue to educate new drivers, new delivery people, and everybody about staying off of Tacoma and maintaining, the routes that we've all talked about and established. As you get new people on there, we just have to constantly remind people and be vigilant to make sure that that stays, as we discussed in the past. So kind of a quick update, but a lot of progress there. So Michael, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dave. That was a tremendous amount there. So we like to pause in between each section and see if anyone has questions. I'm also looking at the chat, not seeing any. We have 2 more presentations tonight, but sometimes it's helpful to pause in between. Any questions on the Leggett building so far? Okay. And Richard, I see your hand. Go for it, sir.
Hi, just a quick question. Very, very, very thorough update on the building. Appreciate that. And it all looks great. It may be shown for something for me to see, but is there lightning protection on the buildings?
Yes, that building, when complete, will have a full lightning protection in there, inspected, by the county and everything else. It'll go along the roof typically.
Right.
So when that parapet goes in, that's where that'll be located. And of course,
Thanks.
tied to a rod in the electric room. Richard, I know you've been in the buildings before, but you know how that gets grounded and all of that business, if you say.
Yeah.
And then
Thank you.
absolutely. I see a question in the chat. It says, when do you expect lab cabinetry to be completely installed?
When they bring those deliveries in mid-July, that's going to be, a 4 to 6 week process, maybe even longer, just as they coordinate, move that stuff. There's a lot of casework that goes in that building. That's why they're kind of used the larger trucks to get all of it in.
Excellent. Other questions? Okay. So let's go to our next project, the Library and Resource Center renovation. We've got a good update here, so take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so the project update agenda is to give you an overview of the project. We're going to give you a progress update and a timeline of the overall project as well. So first, what is the project? The renovation of the library building is basically to modernize the library, to better serve the students, to improve the facilities for the library staff. We have enhanced ADA compliance with revising the south side entrance facing New York Avenue, and also modifying the main entrance, not the location. It's still going to be facing the math building in the same orientation, but the stairs were modified slightly to add a ADA ramp there so that it has ADA compliance. And of course, we're increasing safety in the building as well. Some design directives. We're retaining the current size of the building, except for there was an enclosure on the opposite side of North Avenue that was enclosed. It had like a little box out, and that's now going to be enclosed. It's only about a 15 by 20 foot area, and that's just to create a corridor on the lower level. We will maintain the height of the existing building. We also are matching the color of the panels that came off the building. The main entryway will continue to be oriented towards the math building, and there's minimal changes to the entryway that faces New York Avenue. Any changes to the building facade in the main entryway will respect the building's location in the neighborhood, and again, including making sure the color is the same. And the next bullet says minimize the windows to mitigate the light spill into the community. And of course, we're complying with all city, county, and state construction and permitting requirements, including tree protection and hazardous material removal, which I'll have a little more to speak about on some of the upcoming slides. So here's a view from New York Avenue. As you can see, it's the same color as the building was before. The height has not changed. There's very minimal windows, and it's going to look great when it's done. Some other construction directives, of course, one of the most important is adhering to the noise adherence ordinance. Rather, we take this very seriously, and we do not allow any vehicles on site before 7 a.m. We have strict routes they take, which we'll show you in some of our logistics slides. And to help with some of the noise management, we also check the construction vehicles to make sure the exhaust systems are all in good condition. If we see any that aren't in good condition, they are removed from the site. Construction vehicles must not park on New York or Chicago avenues or anywhere in the surrounding neighborhood. And as Barton Mallow spoke earlier, as we get new trades on site, we have orientations for all new trades to make sure they know the rules, so no new workers come on site and violate the rules. Construction personnel may not park in the neighborhood, including meter parking in spaces along Chicago Avenue. And temporary parking for delivery vehicles may only take place in designated cutouts on New York Avenue. And that's adjacent to the Nunley Student Services Building. And you'll see on our logistics plan, the routing, they go a little better, but they pull off of New York Avenue into a backing space that takes them off the road, and that's where deliveries occur. Of course, we're coordinating with the city and county regarding any temporary road closures, and will provide at least week's notice to the community. We do not have any upcoming temporary road closures between now and the next meeting. We've implemented a strict construction traffic plan to manage the impact of traffic along Chicago and New York avenues. Project vehicles traversing through New York Avenue may not proceed southbound beyond Academic Way. And construction vehicles will not be permitted on Tacoma Avenue at any time. And again, it's just noting that we're complying with all city, county, and state permitting requirements, including inspections, pre-construction meetings, and of course for road closures and tree protection and hazardous material removal, which again, I'll have more to speak about. This is kind of in just graphically showing what we just spoke about. The blue is showing the route from the parking garage, how the construction would enter the job site. So they're going to go down Fenton, down New York Avenue, and where that yellow dot is where there's 2 back down spaces that we back down off the road. They do not stop on New York Avenue. They back down off the road and into the site. And then as you can see, they pull back out and take the same route they came in. We do not let them to continue to go down New York Avenue. This is a logistics plan just showing the site itself. Most of the work is on the inside of the building, but we do have some exterior work just to improve the facade. We have the entire perimeter enclosed in fencing, screen fencing. And as you can see on the right-hand corner of that picture, those 2 little gray images on the right-hand triangular side, that's where the dumpsters are. They are within the construction fence, so they're not seen by anybody. And you can also see all the brown is the mulch and tree protection for root zone, which is topped off as needed to maintain at least 4 inches. Big milestone. So all asbestos abatement is 100% complete. There was some minor vinyl floor tile, so the exterior panels, the ductwork, insulation, and sealant. And of course, we followed all abatement guidelines. We used a licensed and certified abatement contractor. We provide MDE notices and posted the notices. We had plan and procedures as well submitted to us to make sure they were doing it right. And notice of asbestos project signage was also posted. And we had an industrial hygienist license as well. It did advanced air analysis to make sure all areas were cleared before containment came down. But it's all complete. This again is just showing you from New York Avenue some of the exterior progress. You're mostly seeing the demolition complete here. In the upcoming weeks and months, you'll see exterior studs going in front of that masonry. And then that'll get sheathing, and then it'll get those panels that you saw that were brown, which are all actually ultra high performance concrete panels. Some more going around the building in general. As you can see, the demolition is substantially complete. If you look at the center photo, that's showing the structure itself. All that gets framed with metal stud framing and insulation to improve the thermal envelope of the building and to cut down on energy costs. And that'll also have that same brown transite panels on it as well. And again, on the right-hand side, you can see we have plastic in any openings that we've made prepped before the drywall starts and before the opening start. So we're keeping everything enclosed during the entire period of construction. Some more photos of the building. This is showing basically the CMU and the corner of the building. All of this gets metal stud framing. All of this gets ultra high performance panels, again, to match the color of the existing panels that came off. But good progress on the demo. And then the majority of this project is interior renovation. As you can see on the left photo, that's the second floor. We're probably 70% complete on the metal stud framing. We're actually getting some close-in inspections this week, and we'll start to hang drywall. From the center photo, as you can see, the above ceiling ductwork is substantially complete. The VAVs are in. We've got most of the conduit in, and the sprinkler work should start in the coming weeks. And then we'll start putting ceiling grid in about a month away from now. Right-hand photo is just showing the lower level, some of the metal stud framing that's complete, and also the ductwork that's substantially complete. Some more interior progress. Again, looking on the opposite side of the lower level, as you can see, the ductwork is pretty much substantially complete, ready for diffusers, and the metal stud framing's moving well along. You might see the gentleman there on the lift. That's one of the more common items used on the project on the inside of the building. And then in the center, you just see a metal stud delivery that was performed before we started the framing. And then on the right-hand photo, there's some existing spaces that are not getting renovated, just minor sprinkler upgrades and fire protection upgrades. So we've protected all the floors, protected all the surfaces to make sure all the existing finishes and carpet remain intact as they were before we started. Here's some of the typical delivery vehicles. The most common one's going to be the one at the top, which is the roll-off dumpster. Again, that's going to back off New York Avenue, back into the site and not be on the road, and deliver the dumpster inside of the fence. On the left-hand corner, you'll see a flatbed truck. That's a common truck used for deliveries on our site. And then a few of our trades, mainly the electrical, mechanical, work out of a construction work van. You'll see those backed in on occasion off the road on New York Avenue, pulled into the site. Few more vehicles. This is one of the larger vehicles on the left-hand side. That's a drywall and stud delivery. And that actually can back down and get off New York Avenue. That's a picture as it's actually pulling up, and our flaggers out there to back them down. They do back right into the site and unload into the site. And then there's a picture on the right-hand side of the dumpster that is behind the fence. So from a construction overview timeline, as you can see, we're substantially complete the demo. We've started the building envelope demo and framing. So we're going to continue to work on that for some time, and the interior renovation for some time. And then we expect to finish on this project of spring or early summer of 2024. And I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions? Another very comprehensive update. Richard, you never disappoint, Richard. As a moderator, I need people to ask questions. So please take it away, sir.
Happy to. Just a quick question, Joseph. Is there a central control within facilities on site for all the buildings, like the new, Leggett building and the library? Is that all just controlled centrally, but then it can be overridden by Brad Stewart if he wants to? How does that work?
So it's all tied in. The BAS system's all tied in to the campus system. So they are tied in, yes.
And is that controlled basically just locally or in Rockville, or how does it work?
I would have to actually ask the college where that, we route everything from the building to their BAS system, and then we work with them towards the end of the project on the programming. I'm not sure which building they're going to want everything programmed out of. We run all the infrastructure and connect to the main infrastructure that's just outside of the building, and then do the programming in concert with the college.
Okay, thanks. But they know to contact Brad Stewart directly if there's any problems with the temperature, correct?
That's correct.
Brad, you on it?
Thanks, Richard. The actual control system is located in the ST building for the east side of the campus. Everything runs through there. It's computer programmed. Things get warm at night during this time of year. They get cool during the day and vice versa. And same thing happens on weekends. I'm in constant contact with Ali Fadl, who's our facilities director for the campus, and Carlos Castillo, who's our head maintenance mechanic type guy. We program everything in the Cultural Arts Center, for example. We cool the building when we're anticipating large crowds. So we've got pretty good control over the whole system. Marv, did I miss anything?
No. Hey, good to see you, Richard. Yeah, we actually have a central control system that works out of the campus. I mean, excuse our central services building, and we can monitor everything from there, Richard. Each building has its own controls that can be individually overridden, but we can actually monitor everything from one location, and then each campus can monitor all their facilities from one location. But there is an ability to override anything from either the campus, the individual building, or from central services. And every building has its own meters and everything, so we can actually monitor the actual performance of each building. Does that answer your question? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any in chat. Okay, we got one more presentation, so let's roll to that and then we'll open it up for broad discussion. So many of you have also been part of the facilities master planning process, and we said that as we continued the quarterly updates, we wanted to make sure we were bringing some updates from the FMP into this meeting as well. And so Mike, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much, and good to see everybody again. Let's go on to the next slide. So this is the list of all the meetings that we've just had over the past couple of months. Many of you have attended many of them. So what we're having tonight is just a simple overview of kind of what we saw and what we heard. So we started off the beginning of the month of May with a college-wide overview. And then we had 2 public meetings for Tacoma Park and Silver Springs. One was sort of a kickoff just to kind of make sure we understood what the issues were. The second was a walking tour of the campus, which was a good time for all and great weather, thank goodness. And then we came back and started another series in June. So the 6th, the 8th, the 13th, and the 15th, basically Tuesdays and Thursdays over a couple of weeks. We had individualized meetings with each campus where we talked about the current plan and how far we'd gotten. So Tacoma Park was on the 6th, and now we're back again on the 29th. For this update. We'll be back again in the fall after we do our homework over the summer and test out all of the concepts that we've developed. So this is the concept that we overviewed, and basically in that first 10-year phase, which is really what we're looking at, there are 3 things on the agenda. The first is a replacement for Science North and the Math Pavilion. And the North Pavilion with a new wellness facility. This facility is intended to potentially have parking underneath it, to maintain the open space that used to be kind of there when Falcon Hall existed, so that path through the campus will still exist, and to basically include some of the functions that existed in Falcon Hall, but also adding in some academic and student service functions that create a holistic wellness presentation for the students. The second major potential is an academic project on lot W1 over on the Silver Spring side. Again, this is a good opportunity to put some parking underneath the building and maintain that capacity on that side of the campus. And we're still in the process of determining what the needs are and what the academic functions might be in that, but we should have that resolved by the fall. And then the other thing that we're really thinking about is a landscape project that really works on sort of the safety, security, wayfinding, and all of those things that really could help tie the campus together, make it easier to navigate, and make it more cohesive as a campus. So that's what we're kind of thinking about in the next 10 years. And then, of course, in the 10 years that follow after that, there's still the need will present itself to do some renovation work for the pavilions, which have been swing space for the last couple of years and have had some upgrades to their mechanical system. So they're in good shape for the near term, but will eventually need some definite upgrades. And then keeping our eye on property acquisition along Fenton Street to make sure that if those properties become available, that's something that the college has their eye on for potential growth in the next decade after this. Those are kind of the key aspects of the plan as we see it today. And so we've presented this to you and to others, and we've heard a lot of good feedback. So the first is that, student success is an important focus. We've heard that from the college, but we've also heard it from this community, which is a great thing. So we're looking forward to figuring out ways to incorporate that. Student well-being was well received as a tenet of the plan. Again, both by the community as well as by the campus. So obviously the replacement for Falcon Hall would be a big step forward for that. We also heard pretty strongly that supporting some of the local businesses and making access to them more readily available would be great, not only for the students, but for the residents as well. A couple of themes also emerged. The first is that the grounds are really important. So making wayfinding better, including graphics and signage that talk about the history of the site, including art that helps foster a sense of well-being and belonging, improvements to the tree canopy, and making sure that the space is available for the community to use. All of those things are kind of important as an overlay to everything that we're doing. And we also heard that parking and traffic are still issues. We heard that there's still some illegal parking along Chicago Ave, despite the efforts of our contracting brethren to keep their staff members from doing it. There's always somebody who does, so still an issue. And then the lack of respect for stop signs was noted on our campus walk several times. So still an important thing to kind of think about, and also creating better conditions and connectivity for bikers to regional bike paths and things like that. So those are a couple of the main themes, kind of focusing on the grounds as well as keeping our eye on parking and traffic issues. So as we've noted before, there is a website up for feedback. So we want to make sure that we broadcast that again and make sure that you all have access to that for submitting comments when they pop into your head as you're strolling the grounds, as they say. So you can use that QR code or navigate to the website and take a look. And with that, any questions?
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Any questions on the facilities master plan? See that the challenge is being so comprehensive is people don't have questions after all that, which is good. Anyone have a question here? I'm not. Team, are you seeing any? I'm not seeing any in the chat either. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay, so let's open it up. We've got how to stay in touch. You heard a little bit of this from Mike, but we've got the building project site, that's building-projects, project hotline, which you can call anytime with questions, concerns, things that you want us to have immediate attention around, and we will continue to engage going forward. Know that these meetings are certainly not the only opportunity, and we're always available. So any last questions from anyone on the 3 projects we talked about? Excellent. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to someone from the college. How about Mr. Stewart or Mr. Mills? You want to give a nice farewell? If you can do it in rhyme, that maybe a haiku, Brad? You can do a haiku? A little 575?
Now, there's a movie called White Men Can't Jump. White Men Can't Rap either. So we're not going to be doing any poetry tonight.
No poetry tonight?
Unless Marv has something in reserve. Something like this. I just want to
Bob saying
express our
no.
I just want to express our gratitude for everybody signing in for all of these construction forum updates. It helps us out with all the questions and information that we learn, and it re-energizes all of the folks at the college and all of our contractor partners to keep moving on the projects. So thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
You
Bye-bye.
as well.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.